Welcome back to the George James and Associates Research Tools channel. My name is Stephen Lee, and in this video, I'm going to pick up where I left off in the previous video on classifying reviewer comments, and now I'm going to see through searching for certain keywords in my one of my library databases of whether or not I can shore up this otherwise devastating weakness that a reviewer has came back with regarding my paper. And so the reviewer said I cannot recommend publication of this paper because it's attempting to relate two different sets of data that are very different. The categories of offenses studied by each are different. The purposes for which each data collection are different. The studies of data are different. Methods of collecting data or analyzing are different, and so on. And so basically, what the reviewer is saying is that you cannot take qualitative findings of one study and compare it to quantitative data collection of another, not really a study, but by quantitative data that's collected by a completely separate entity. And so you can't take quantitative, you basically can't test qualitative findings in a quantitative way, is what the author is essentially saying here. This is one example, but I would argue that if we knew who the reviewer was, and we asked him or her, do you believe that you can do this, then he or she would say no. So then what it becomes my task then as the author of this paper to to look and see what's out there in the literature, and if I can find other instances that have been published where authors have done something similar to this, then at least I have a leg to stand on, and then it's just going to come down to whether the editor, it's going to basically become a philosophical difference for the most part, and see whether an editor of a journal is willing to look at what I found and see if that's a compelling argument, compelling enough to go ahead and move forward with publication. So I normally don't write out keywords. I normally just envision what I want to type into the database chat, and then I'll do variations of that if I'm not receiving the hits that I like, or if I don't believe that the hits are relevant, then I will change up the language, and I do that pretty rapidly. But because this is an instructive video, I'm going to actually type out some of the keywords. So the first thing that we want to do is we're looking to see if qualitative findings can be empirically tested. So we could say empirically test qualitative findings. And so part of the problem is that you want to have fewer words possible, just because the way that search algorithms are performed by the databases and the online software, you want to have the fewer, because then if you have all these words, then it could come back with, in this case with these four words, it could come back with a bunch of articles or books that focus on the empirical part or the test or qualitative or findings, and so, or any combination thereof. But if you only have two or three words, that's even better, because then you're omitting an entire search term. So let's assume that doesn't yield as many findings that we would want, or any hits that really speak to our case. So then if that doesn't work, then perhaps what we could do is we could use different language, right? So reconciling different data sets and see where that leads us. Other things that we can do variations on either one of these. Let's see. So we could do, I'm trying to see of what else. So empirically test qualitative findings, reconciling different data sets. You can also use search terms that single in on these and just see what others have done and see if that would be even better, right? If someone has already done something similar to this, but maybe instead of the NIBRS they used a different data set to test the MMI findings, that would be better because it's been published, right? We're only looking at, and I'll show you when I do the filters on my online search. So let's just say Mature Market Institute. It doesn't matter really if it's, and then National Incident. If I get NIBRS, that's going to give me, I already know because I've read a lot of the articles on that, and that's not really where I want to go. So Mature Market Institute. So these are a number of things that we can try, and so again, normally I don't do this. So I'll just have these three, and then I'll, as necessary, go and test. So, all right. So this is one of my alma mater's library, online library system that I have access to. Okay. So I don't. These are a little bit different with every single school. So what the top thing says is that keep selections for subsequent searches. Yes, because having to go back through here and do this every single time would be awful. So what we're looking at specifically is peer-reviewed articles. So the article part here gets checked. The full text gets checked, so we don't get citations of journals that we can't access. Open access, do not check that because that's only going to be articles that are free that anybody could do, and there are so few of those. Peer-reviewed, definitely. And I believe that is it. So you want to make sure that peer-reviewed, full text, and article are checked, as well as keeping this. Okay, so empirically test qualitative findings, elderly and technology tools, a fuzzy set qualitative comparative analysis. That title. So the first thing we're looking at is the titles, right? And if this just seems completely off base, we go to the next thing. But I'm not sure. I need to read more. This is where abstracts really shine, right? So the number of senior citizens is growing globally, complex care demands, technology. However, it's very important that the elderly accept and actually use the technology. Okay, now it's sort of strained from what we care about. Empirically test the senior technology acceptance model using the model itself isn't going to be, I mean, it may have been developed qualitatively, but that's just a pure mixed methods study, textbook mixed methods. Yeah, okay. So by this point, I'm moving on because that doesn't help us. Item response analysis of blah blah criteria for major depression. Okay, findings from Australian National Survey of Mental Health. Okay, so it looks like it's just, yeah. This doesn't look like they're taking empirical or quantitative methods and testing qualitative findings. Okay, so I'm moving on. The other thing too, reason why I want to move on is because if I spend a lot of time with something like this, I'm going to have to really familiarize myself with this discipline, and I just it's going to be a lot more work. So qualitative study of a brief individual nope, because this is just purely qualitative, whereas these have been purely quantitative. Macroeconomic reverse stress test, that doesn't sound promising at all. Aims at finding exactly the scenarios that cause a bank to cross the frontier between survival and default. No. Okay. Next generation communication training in oncology. No. Ethical virtues. Supporting the disclosure of incident secondary findings in genomic testing. Qualitative study. Nope. Integrated palliative care in Europe. Qualitative system literature review. Empirically tested. So they're just reviewing empirical. Basically, they're going to review, it sounds like, articles that used empirical methods, and they're doing a qualitative literature review or meta-analysis of articles that used empirical methods. So that's not what we're looking for either. Qualitative study of a brief individual psychotherapy. Nope. Let's see. We've already done. Some of these are duplicated. Okay, this looks interesting because it has qualitative and quantitative in the title. So after the title, again, we look at the abstract. During the development of a software system, supplier must officially monitor the development activities, comply with the blah blah blah. It is based on the analysis and evaluation of software reliability by processing failure data collected on the software products. Its development and operation. Okay, this isn't sounding. So this abstract is kind of garbage. It doesn't. It just goes on and on. It's almost like the introductory paragraph almost of the thing. So remember in a previous video where I explained how vital an abstract is. This is why, because people are coming through and they're just skimming the abstracts, trying to see whether or not it's going to go into their paper's literature review. Nope. Okay, soft knowledge, that sounds almost like qualitative, even though I'm sure it's an industry-specific technical term, but still. We present an empirical study designed to evaluate the hypothesis that human soft knowledge can enhance the cost-benefit ratio visualization on the impact of three classes of soft knowledge: knowledge about application context, knowledge about the patterns to be observed, Okay, so soft knowledge is just something that's in our minds, I guess. Knowledge about statistical. Okay, nope. Validity and empirically based hypothesis construction. Let's see what that says. All right, essay focuses on the opportunities and strengths multi-method approach, widely called methodological triangulation, in which different investigative methods are applied to one research object. Okay, so now I want to know what the research object is. In practice, this can be realized with the coupling of qualitative structural data concerning the life course and the interpretation and evaluation of life course data collected with qualitative methods. The approach is examined in order to shed light on the problem that research findings often show different phenomena and not the different aspects of one phenomenon. Okay, this discussion of the relationships of the findings to one another shows that in this context, a multi-method approach can nevertheless be used to increase validity and to test hypotheses. That's interesting. This is the closest thing that we've seen so far, and maybe I'm going to have to basically I'm going to have to educate myself on methodological triangulation and see if there's more. This would be interesting to see what's in this literature review. So, okay, going to go to the full text and just download it. I'll do another video about how I categorize the files that I download and basically make it easier to write the reference sections. Okay, I don't know why that's taking so long. Let's try the second one. Oh, fantastic. And now it looks like... That's annoying. Okay. Oh, I see. That's why. Because it's so stupid. It's because I've been logged out. It's because I've been logged out for so long. How dumb. Okay, anyway. Alright, good. So here we are. If you find yourself on something like ProQuest or whatnot, there's not an obvious download button. It's this thing right here with the file. So I save that. It's going to go into my downloads, and then I will continue on with the search. I tend to keep these up if I can because it gives me the information. So here, actually on the page, you can tell that it's got all the really good information. There's a DOI here, though, that I'm not necessarily seeing on the front page here on the first two pages. So if you do that and you don't see it, you either need to like take a picture of this and save it or whatnot, or just leave it up. That's just a sort of little hint for you guys. Because you're going to need this in APA 6th and 7th editions. Alright, so we did... Yeah, I think we were already on the second one. So that's interesting. At least we have a... where is it? I don't know if we got to that. Yeah, we got here. This was the last one, triangulation. Okay, so qualitative model shell for process diagnosis. That doesn't sound like anything that we're going to care about. And the abstract is like 1 sentence long, so that's great. Empirically derived classification system for juvenile fire setters. Qualitative study, okay, qualitative evaluation, meta-analytic integration, and test psychological climate. Okay. Usually I won't go more than 3 pages deep. Let's see, measuring monetary policy, the empirically grounded identifying restrictions. Nope, risks of coverage directed. And so now because I have this, I'm going to add methodologically. I would add this in my mind. I wouldn't really, again, I don't do this usually on paper, but methodological triangulation. So that was a good find, I think, but we'll see. Okay, so that's pure qualitative, no. Meta-analysis, empirical findings, no. Okay, quantitative and qualitative review. But this may be of the same data, which is not what I'm doing. I'm doing a qualitative of data set A and quantitative as data set B. Well-being have been documented repeatedly over the last 2 decades. More recently, there has been application of exercise interventions. Attention to the efficacy of exercise interventions has been notably absent in the psychological treatment literature. We provide a quantitative and qualitative review of these efficacy studies in clinical samples and discuss the potential mechanism of action of exercise interventions. So it's a meta-analysis of 11 treatment outcome studies of individuals with depression, yielded a very large combined effect size for the advantage of exercise over control conditions. Probably not, but right now I only have one article in the wings for this, so this is probably not going to make the cut. But you know, there's certain things, unless you're really swimming in stuff, right, in a surplus of potential sources, then you know it's something that just needs to be. What just? I don't know what just happened. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna. Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, that one I delete because it didn't have the information I wanted. So it didn't have like the DOI or whatnot. So I'm gonna have to Google Scholar that later for the reference section. Naturalistic test of whoever's theory and home visit. No. Nope. Nope. This is the very first article we saw. No. Okay. All right. So that is that. So we come back here and we're going to use the second. You can do this really in any order, but wow, we're already at 16 minutes. Okay. Let's see. Reconciling. Let's see. What does that say? Social scientists. Data relevant to their research subjects to be divided among various data sets based on dissimilar geographic units. New software reported here now makes it possible to reconcile data which are spatially aggregated on different bases, and to do so in a way which in tests on 4 difficult surfaces yielded. Problem is that the qualitative data don't have, like, we just have findings. We don't have the. This is really interesting stuff, but I don't think that's going to make the cut. All right. No. No. Nope. 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 So not a whole lot. See, and here's a good example. I have reconciling in there, but I'm really looking at the different, like, qualitative. And here, see, this is at this point because it's starting to get off on. Because see, this it spit this result out because the word reconciling in the title of the article matched my word reconciling in the search. So at this point, it's starting to veer. The results, I think, are starting to veer off. So reconciling qualitative and quantitative data on the same research question. And this is really long, so I don't know if that's going to be. Yeah, I may have to. Yeah, no. No. Yeah, see, this isn't going to work either. So at this point, I would honestly just jump to the, what is it? Yeah, methodological. I'll go back to Mature Market Institute if I don't find anything. This isn't a good sign, by the way. If we can't find, we should be finding like all these articles on stuff. Vindicating methodological triangulation. All right. About the relative merits of different methods, Dubois advocated for and applied methodological triangulation. Yeah, Dubois is pretty famous. So this is to use multiple methods simultaneously in the belief that where one is uncertain about the reliability of any given method, if multiple methods yield the same answer, that answer is confirmed more strongly than it could have been by any single method. The problem is that, yeah, so that's not exactly what we're doing either. Against this methodological pursuits believe that one should choose a single appropriate method and stick with it using tools from voting theory. We show Dubois' methodological triangulation to be more likely to yield the correct answer than purism. This holds even when in fact only one of the methods is appropriate for the given research question. So this might be good just for background. I don't know how much it's actually going to help. That's weird. Okay, I guess it's going to go straight to the download section. All right. So vindicating was the last one. No, what are you doing? That's not what I want at all. So there we go. I don't know why it took it back to the other one, but okay, so here we go. Methodological triangulation, an approach to understanding data. How people who had moved to retirement communities were adjusting. More than one kind of method to study a phenomenon. It has been found to be beneficial in providing confirmation of findings, more comprehensive data. Yeah, I think so at this point, but honestly, before this video, I had no idea what methodological triangulation was. So at this point, I would probably download at least. I'm going to download at least 5. I would say 5 articles that go through methodological triangulation because this really seems to be the best. Um, okay, and especially because it looks like that's dropped off because that matches this up here. So now at the very final search term, MetLife Mature Market Institute. I'm just doing this because I'm curious what. Okay, that's there. I forget that there were several studies and they had different. Okay, so I'm going to take out MetLife. And I'm going to say financial elder abuse because that'll probably no. No. I don't even know what that is. It's probably a medical term. See, now with some of these, it's just focusing on this because it doesn't have very many hits for that. Okay, so yeah, at this point, we're already at 22 minutes on this video. I don't want to make a video that's too crazy long. So that is what I would do. So hopefully you saw the progression of reading this, coming up with keywords, and then you just have to go. You have to not only go where the data leads you, you have to go where the literature has already unfolded in the literature review, and where the conversation has already been. And so we're just following that, and it really looks like the all-star here hopefully works out is methodological triangulation, because that's going to give me that's going to give me, because right now in the paper, the Mature Market Institute is kind of like the theoretical framework, but it's not really that great. But this provides a lot stronger framework that might actually save the paper. And so what I can do then, if I can just show that people have studied the same phenomenon using different methods, and then they compare them, and then taking away the same implications, right? Then I would basically be using the crux of my paper. Then is going to become using methodological triangulation to study the victim and perpetrator characteristics of financial elder abuse, comparing the qualitative methods from the Mature Market Institute and the quantitative findings from the National Incident-Based Reporting System. So that's going to become, it looks like, the crux of the paper, but I've got to educate myself more on methodological triangulation, which means I have a few articles to read. So it's probably going to be at least a couple of days before I make another video on this, because I've got to, on top of everything else that I'm doing, I've got to read those. I've got to go and read those articles and probably do a little bit more searching through those articles for their bibliographies and seeing if there are any more salient studies that have been published on the topic. So anyway, that's, it makes researching really interesting, because before I made this video, I had no idea what this was. Triangulation, I always picture like on Criminal Minds, right, where they have like serial killers that are dropping bodies and stuff, and they're triangulating the sort of the kill zone of the serial killer, and like that's what I thought triangulation would refer to, or using triangulation to pinpoint where you make a phone call from using a cell phone by triangulating between different cell towers. But I had no idea there was such a thing as methodological triangulation, and it's really cool. So you see, just from studying and skimming article titles and abstracts, you are then able to sort of pick up a new scent when your paper has faltered in your past scholastic endeavors. So that's all I have for now. Hopefully you found this informative and as interesting as I did making it. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.